Well, the Teal Mask DLC came out, and some newcomers as well as some Pokemon from older generations have returned to join the interesting, albeit ridiculously powerful hellscape known as the OU metagame. And oh, come on now, we know where this is going. You clicked the title. You saw me put Ursaluna Blood Moon in the thumbnail. But before we hop right into it, I do want to list off my honorable mention lightning round. There are a lot of amazing Pokemon, some of which are coming back from the last list, some of which aren't. And no, I will not poke your at this one after what happened last time. I still lost sleep over that one. Lando, Enamo, Clefable, Ribombee, Walking Wake, and Alolan Ninetales. There you go. I said my mandatory Clefable of the video. I'm free for a little bit before it comes back to somehow become a top 10 meta staple just despite my list. Now, let's just get started. Oh, and worst team for Red and Blue Let's Play, Mist Magius Gaming Channel, link in the description below and in iCard above. Thank you. Admittedly, this is gonna be here specifically because I want to poke fun at a buddy of mine who plays a lot of Sun. Because every time he runs into this as a Sun player, he tends to get absolutely walloped. Iron Moth breaks through Sun like there's no tomorrow from what I've seen. With booster energy enhancing its speed so it's always faster than Walking Wake, even if they are proto speed. It laughed at Ogerpon Fire, it laughs at Great Tusk, King Gambit, Goldango, Roaring Moon, Walking Wake, a Mungus, and basically most techs you can run on Sun, all with the combination of Substitute, Fiery Dance, Sludge Bomb, and Dazzling Gleam to completely and utterly rip Sun a new one. It's one of the most fearsome late game cleaners and overused, and it's also very good on Sun, better than Hisui and Typhlosion. But if I tell my writer that, he's gonna slap the ever-living hell out of me for speaking what he deems to be slander. Not to mention Fiery Dance's 50% chance to raise its special attack means that it can snowball out of control really fast. And if it gets off enough Fiery Dances, well, say goodbye to your team. I think the only Pokemon that can truly switch into it, well, Blissey and Unaware Clodsire are some pretty good ones. With that said, given that Volcarona is an Ubers and Iron Moth isn't, we learned that while Volcarona keeps getting better every generation, eventually, it will get worse, even if worse is still this good. Alright, so if I've covered a Pokemon before, their segment is gonna be a decent bit shorter, because what do you want me to do here? Repeat the same exact things I said in the last OU vid? Yeah, no thanks. Instead, I'm gonna see if I can bring up anything new, and if I can't, then I'll simply summarize the points I made. This is going to be the case with the Pokemon that continues to be my favorite special wall in the tier, Mungus. Yep, Spore, Regenerator, Clear Smog can switch in the Specs Dragapult and Walking Wake. Given that Mungus tends to run Synthesis, I think it's strangely excellent in the matchup against Sun teams, due to its ability to heal even more in the Sun, and then continue laughing at special attackers. What an actual crime it is that Roaring Moon dropped to underused. That mon was not lasting a day in there, and when it got put in UUBL in less than that long, I wasn't surprised. What I was surprised to find, however, is that it got knockoff in the Teal Mask DLC. This is of course very exciting for me, because being able to knock off heavy duty boots, Toxic Orb, Leftovers, and all the other stuff that is run on Big Stall makes me pretty happy. Yeah, there's the Dragon Dance set with Terra Flying and Acrobatics, but we've talked about that one. There are, funny enough, also Choice Band and Choice Scarf sets I didn't talk about that are very good U-turn pivots. I don't remember getting to those because it was sharing a slot with Baxcalibur and Dragonite, who I now like to believe Roaring Moon has surpassed thanks to the power of the knock, and I just didn't feel like doing another tie entry. Dragonite is still really good too though. Baxcalibur got freaking banned, so if I wasn't wrong before, I would have been wrong now, all thanks to Alolan Ninetales. Ah, the Scarlet and Violet OU meta. Truly an ever-changing landscape full of absurd stuff. Now, before I go to the next segment, I want to quickly mention that the Choice Band and Scarf sets are very good in Sun, because the photosynthesis boosts makes them hit extra hard. And as a hyper offense guy, you know that gets me hyped. Look, it's a meta video, and this is the obligatory Dragapult segment, because Dragapult is still amazing no matter what. This Pokemon cannot be bad. It still has all the versatile sets, and all the stuff that it usually does. Specs, band, lefties, boots, you name it, and it can possibly make use of it. When you're the fastest Pokemon in the tier, you're always going to have that kind of advantage. And you know what? No, this is no longer a Dragapult segment. I'm changing it. Go away, Pult. I'll talk to you later. Well, I already put Walking Wake in honorable mentions, so this is actually gonna be a Greninja segment. Wait, what? No Greninja segment? What do you mean I do nothing but talk about frogs? Oh, we're doing that? Oh, fine, I guess we're doing an Ursaluna Blood Moon segment. Ursaluna Blood Moon is an amazing Pokemon. While slow, it has a whopping 135 special attack stat, insane physical bulk, and access to Calm Mind to make its mediocre special bulk usable, and make its special attack even more absurd. Its ability Mind's Eye is basically scrappy, but it ignores accuracy lowering and evasion boosting. And with access to Moonlight for recovery, it can stay in the game for quite some time. It has Vacuum Wave, which I keep forgetting it has, to the point where every time it comes out, I have to remind myself. And then stuff like Earth Power, Moonblast, and Body Press is real neat. However, that's all bells and whistles being added on to the fact that its signature move is a base 140 powerful normal stab laser beam. Yeah, it can't be used twice, but thank goodness that it can't be used twice. This stupid bear already demands a sacrifice when it comes in. With an ability that makes it harder to play around than regular Ursaluna, who you could at least try to whittle down thanks to the Flame Orb they usually hold. If you don't have a special wall, be prepared to sack off a Pokemon. Oh, and by the way, even if you have a special wall, like the Mungus I like to run, you may end up just taking over half health anyways. I've seen this Pokemon run Assault Vest, Life Orb, and Leftovers all to really good success. Actual monster. So, remember how in the DLC video of Pokemon that aren't in the DLC and should be, that Manaphy should be in it? Well, guess who's now in Scarlet and Violet? Yeah, Manaphy's in the game. You can bring it over, finally. I was waiting for the day for my little blue gremlin to come back, but sadly, this is actually maybe not the best thing, as I have now learned to be careful what I wish for. Nothing has been more strenuous than not having a built-in counter when Manaphy begins to set up Take Heart and Acid Armor to buff its stats, and then Stored Power to take advantage of them. What's Take Heart, you might ask? Oh, it's just Calm Mind that also removes your non-volatile status elements, which means that you can't Toxic Stall it when it tries to set up. Yeah, Tail Glow and Rest in Rain is still here. And that's neat, but you can at least out-offense that. The Acid Armor and Take Heart combination is literally just budget Magearna. Combine this with access to Scald, Ice Beam, and potentially Dazzling Gleam and Energy Ball, and your day will find itself quickly becoming worse as you fish for a crit that will never show up in time. And then Manaphy jukes your entire team. Yeah, I should have thought more about what I wanted. My fault, guys. But hey, I can at least say that I made the God tier read. Now, what weaknesses does this thing have that makes me not want to see it banned? If you hit it hard enough, it can't set up in time to sweep you. Just don't act too late against it, or you just lose. Disclaimer. Alright, so 6 through 2 is Pokemon you have absolutely heard me talk about before, I'm gonna be real. You see, only 8 new Pokemon were introduced in the Teal Mass DLC, and none of them really power crept any of the mainstays. Yeah, there's a meta shakeup, new threats have been introduced, the Loyal Trio are some neat Pokemon, all with some excellent tools, but I wouldn't put any of them on this list, because as much as I hate to say it,
The proven standard is just that good. But I will do my best to say something new about Slot 6 through 2, whether they received it in the DLC or it's just something I didn't say before. I want to give that shake up, oh my god, all these mons are so good, but calling them better than these guys feels disingenuous, and it is my responsibility to be accurate. So with that neat little disclaimer out of the way, Gholdengo is still Gholdengo. So why is it above Pult this time around technically, since I did talk about it? To keep it short and simple, Dragapult, while not power crept, did lose one of its roles as a screen setter with the advent of Alolan Ninetales, and thus some of its specific niche has been taken from it. That, and there are more ways to play around it with flip turners and knockoffers. Gholdengo, while it has that issue, still has a niche that is entirely its own with its ability to keep hazards up. And with Alolan Ninetales in the tier, yeah, gold stocks have risen. Now, has Gholdengo received anything new for me to talk about since I went into pretty extensive detail about it in the last video? Not that I know of actually. However, given that more threats have made themselves known, it has definitely received some new partners. Okay, so unlike Gholdengo, who itself didn't receive anything new, Hisuian Samurai did get some new stuff. Now, with that said, I don't like that it got new stuff. Nah, the Samurai was good enough, and even with the power creep, it's still seen a lot from my experience on the ladder. It gets flip turn now, which means that it can actually start to pivot out. So this gives it another layer of depth to its gameplay that it didn't have before, since it was very much Ceaseless Edge the Pokemon. With this flip turn pivoting, that means that it no longer has to outright feint to get a threat on the field, and can actually just safely bring in a counter to something that would normally give it trouble. That's all it really got, but what it got is massive, and definitely keeps it in contention for the top 5, especially with access to the usual knockoff, Sucker Punch, and Water Stab. Iron Valiant is a gift that keeps on giving if you like late game cleaners. Alright, what did I cover last time for it? I looked back on it and I talked about a lot of what it could do. However, I believe some things have changed. I haven't seen it do Terra Dark and Encore anymore. Booster Energy and the Speed stat are still its best set. But nowadays, the most common versions are mixed sets, with Swords Dance, Close Combat, Knockoff, and Moonblast specifically to rip Great Tusk a new one, along with other physically defensive Pokemon. It still easily comes in the late game and cleans up, although it feels even more efficient now with the rise in popularity of Sun teams, letting it outspeed Walking Wake and a non-Scarf Roaring Moon with moderate ease. This mon is an insane breaker, and against hyper offense structures, it will always demand that something is sacked off in order for a counter to come in. With that said, I cannot so proudly say that Iron Valiant has also shown me the Destiny Bond jump scare, where I Terrastalize into something to resist Iron Valiant's incoming attack and KO it, only for it to kill my Terrad Mon with Destiny Bond and then have a massive advantage. The only reason it's not number 1 is because there are ways around it. You just gotta have actual defensive integrity, which is pretty much everywhere with Dondozo being around to stomach its physical attacks. Plus, on the special side, we have Galarian Slowking and other special walls to stomach Moonblast. Now, if you want to know my favorite mon to send this out on, Kommo-o. Because it's either a normal type or a dragon in fighting type. It can never win this matchup. I'm a great Tusk believer through and through, especially since, well, it's incredibly versatile and has even more reasons to be played thanks to its versatility with all these new mons around to try to make their way into the metagame. Someone needs to use Body Press on that Empoleon, Ice Spinner on that Gliscor, and Knockoff on that Sinistra, assuming you caught it on the Switch, since staying in against that thing is bad news. It can still be ran just about however you want. Yeah, it hasn't changed at all, I believe, but the landscape around it has. But that landscape includes mostly Pokemon that Great Tusk fares somewhat well against. It will always have a way to fit on a team in order to provide whatever hole you're missing, be it a physical wall or an offensive threat.
Disclaimer before we get to number 1. This Ogre was originally going to be in the number 1 spot. However, it got banned, so I had to make some last minute adjustments. I will, however, be doing a top 10 strongest Ubermons in the future. Now on the number 1. Look, I honestly am beginning to think that Gambit needs to be banned. I wasn't a Gambit hater originally, but nah, screw this guy. I'm tired of the mind games I am forced to play and the absurd power I have to tiptoe around. The amount of games that can be won just because the Gambit player got outplayed the whole match and then got one read right really makes me question why this is allowed in the tier, honestly. Anyways, venting aside, Sword Stance, Sucker Punch, and Supreme Overlord were simply too good. Not to mention you can actually outright kill your checks with proper prediction at times. Oh, you think Iron Valiant is coming in on your Sword Stance? Don't use Sword Stance, Iron it. This has worked more times than it should. But rather than telling you things you already know, I actually want to tell you guys about a tech I've been using that no one else has been using. I like Brick Break on Gambit a lot, and I've been using it since the days of Grimmsnarl being one of the best screeners, and Dragapult KOing itself to get them up was also experimented with. With Alolan Ninetales now creating entire team structures, Brick Break Gambit is an incredibly consistent way to break through screens without defog, which could potentially remove your own hazards in the process. I use that as a means to stop Alolan Ninetales from keeping screens up, hit back Excalibur for super effective damage before the ban, and catch other Gambits off guard who thought they could safely set up behind dual screens. It's surprisingly effective. It can also technically catch a Blissey off guard if you're fighting a stall team, but odds are, if you didn't remove their Dondozo, they're just gonna switch to that anyways. Gambit remains good at everything, and with screens now back in the picture, it has one more thing to be good at. And of course, almost any Terra it has is somehow a good one.
Alright, that's everything I gotta say. I will say, I kinda wish that there was more stuff. If only so the meta could shake up, and maybe some of the mons from the last list weren't on this one. But like, I didn't want to make the video and change the entire list just for the sake of being unique when it very well would just be wrong. And I don't want to do that. Now, speaking of OU, I'm gonna go play it. I need to go lose to Ursaluna Blood again and tank my elo.